stage is set for the ANC's 111th anniversary celebrations in Bloemfontein, and party president Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to deliver the annual January 8th statement. It's used to outline the party's program of action and set the tone for the year ahead. Now, this happens as the country is still battling with power cuts and ailing economy as well. And of course, high unemployment. Our reporter Moloko Moloto is in Bloemfontein right now, and he joins us live. Moloko, it seems like the festivities are slowly but surely getting on the way there. What can you tell us? What's the latest?
Well, Baron, what I can tell you is that the numbers are picking up a little bit. Earlier, when we were crossing, there was just a handful. Of course, the stadium is far from being filled with the people who continue to arrive here for this all-important event for the African National Congress. Of course, this is an opportunity for those who were not part of the 55th Congress, because only a few delegates were allowed to attend that. So this one is an opportunity and platform for them to come and listen to their president, Cyril Ramaphosa, who will be delivering the statement on behalf of the National Executive Committee. Of course, it also provides an opportunity for the ANC to speak to its rank and file. Let's speak to Lukhona Mnguni. He is our analyst. Mtembu, thank you so much for making time. The ANC obviously is going to dedicate much time talking about internal issues. The buzzword here is renewal. We heard Ramaphosa and the new Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, saying that it's either as the ANC we renew ourselves or we die. How achievable is this renewal for the ANC? Because certainly they acknowledge that it failed since 2017.
Well, look, it's an urgent task. It might not be achievable, as you are saying, 5 years on, from 2017 to 2022. We didn't see much. You'll remember that in the Mangaung conference, the ANC even declared the decade of the cadre, and that's how they came up with, more programs for political education, a political school, and all of those things. But it does seem as if there's something that they are not cracking. They are always talking about the poor quality of the membership of the ANC, and I think that is at the heart of it. And this renewal, you would know, when he was provincial secretary in KwaZulu-Natal, Mdumiseni Ntuli spoke about how this renewal should have, a fence, and some members can make it over the fence and some will have to be left behind. I think the ANC has to take that very seriously to say, how do they improve the quality of their membership? Who do they attract into their rank and file? And I think hopefully the president will address that today. But of course, the renewal is also because this is a governing party. It has to be seen in service delivery. I mean, if you drive around Mangaung, in fact, I think yesterday, Fikile Mbalula delivering the Peter Mukaba lecture, even asked who is the mayor of Mangaung because of just the shoddy service delivery here. Of course, this is a metropolitan where the ANC is beginning to also lose power. I mean, they won, I think, by 1 seat in the 2021 local government election. So it's not an ANC that is strong. It's not an ANC that can turn out people. People have sort of switched out, and that is going to be something interesting to see today, how much Bloemfontein citizens are going to come out today.
Yeah, talking of the dynamics within the Mangaung, I mean, we have seen ANC caucus members voting with the opposition, firstly to even reject their very own budget, to an extent that they even missed the National Treasury's deadline. Fikile Mbalula tried to speak in detail to say that, look, we actually within a week or so we are going to take action there, indicating that he's actually, as the ANC, they are going to even fire the executive mayor. But I want to find out about because some people will say, look, they are paging us because we disagreed with them. In the context of Mbalula saying that they are aware that some aggrieved ANC members are forming political parties to try and reverse the majority or the hegemony of the ANC, what should we read in that? Of course, we have seen Karl Niehaus is intending to form his political party. Can we really say Karl Niehaus is a force that threatens the ANC, or should we suspect that there are some heavyweights behind him?
Well, we can only speculate in terms of who is behind him, and we can only wait and see when the launch happens. But every type of defection from the ANC is not good for the ANC, because it does eat away at the base of the support of the ANC. Whether you look in recent times, the UDM 1996, COPE 2008, you look at your EFF and so on. So all of these, I mean, there was even an allegation that the African, transformation movement is a brainchild of some people within the ANC. This is a party that is beginning to decline electorally, but also in terms of the confidence that people have invested in the ANC, and that comes from within and from outside the ANC. And I think when you look at people who are thinking of defecting, like your Kalni Haas, whether what is the future of people like Ace Magashule, people who are suspended and who might not have a role to play, who have always been political in their lives. And I think sometimes, Moloko, it's about people wanting to do that which resonates with them. I mean, some people have been politicians, career politicians all their lives. They don't know anything outside of that. So when you are suspended or expelled, it feels,
it
feels cold outside the ANC, and therefore you have to find a political home of sorts.
Yeah, and I want us to talk of that, because we have seen the ANC take harsh action against councillors who voted with the opposition, particularly to remove mayors. So there's kind of like a precedence that's been set.
In fact, in this province alone, I mean, Maluti Apufong, you've got the MAP 16 now that contested elections as independents. Those were former ANC councillors who wanted to oust the mayor at the time, and they were unhappy with his corrupt, allegations and so on. And the ANC protected the mayor and chastised the councillors and got rid of them.
But let's take that to the national level, Tembu. We saw certain MPs, including Cabinet Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, saying, look, I vote to support that motion in defiance to the ANC's caucus decision. How should the ANC approach this, considering the fact that they were seen to have fired, not even to suspend? They dismissed all the people who voted to remove the mayors in local government. How should they approach this one? Because we're talking of Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, somebody who tried to contest Cyril Ramaphosa. Would it not be seen to be a patch?
Well, look, I mean, I think we have an animal farm situation. We've seen some members of parliament, your Ben Turox, in, I think, 2011, not supporting the Protection of State Information Act bill at the time, which was dubbed the secrecy bill. So you have precedents where people have voted against the party line and nothing has been, done to them. But this time around, it might seem that, those who support the president want him to assert himself to be much more, effective in how he governs. And of course, you do know that the big elephant in the room right now is that cabinet reshuffle, and when is it going to happen? When is Fikile Mbalula going to resign as Minister of Transport and go to Luthuli House full time? So we are anticipating a cabinet reshuffle, but it does seem, though, they might be political rivals, but there's a lot of respect between Cyril Ramaphosa and Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, and I think that might stand her in good stead because she's seen as a reasonable person, a trusted hand, an old hand of the ANC, as you would say. I mean, there are not many. It's herself, Naledi Pandor, Lindiwe Sisulu, really long-serving ministers, and whether or not it would come to an end now, it stands to be seen.
Maybe let's move a bit away from the party's internal dynamics and talk about bread and butter issues that affect people who, many of them are jobless, many of them feel that, their lives are stuck. There's simply no movement. As they, and earlier when I was speaking to Prof. JJ, your colleague, he did say, look, this is just a jamboree. This is simply a party for this rank and file. They come here flashing their expensive cars in the face of abject poverty that we see in this area. That issue, do you really believe that the ANC really is concerned? If it is concerned about the deepening difficulties that people are faced with, do they have the capacity to do away with those things?
Look, I've said this many a times. The ANC is completely distracted from the business of governing. And I think that not only are they talking about the renewal in terms of the party itself, but they are also talking about their own conduct in government. I mean, the missed promises that they have not been able to fulfill, the resolutions that they took, whether in Mangaung or in Nasrec in 2017, and of course now there are new resolutions. Are they going to implement those? What are the manifestos of the ANC saying? And they've been promising this better life for all. And you are talking about the bread and butter issues. I mean, chief amongst those is load shedding. And it is threatening small businesses, the medium, micro, enterprises. And of course, you've got other issues of the informal economy. There was a big talk about whether or not people can, sell their stuff here in this very, precinct that we are on today as a way of making an income and so on. I do think that the ANC over time has not been able to deliver on its promises to South Africans, and people of South Africa are beginning to check out of the ANC and say, but you spend so much time just servicing your internal dynamics, you are too inward looking, you are too insular based, and how do you get out of that mode and service society? Like you are saying, this is a birthday party, 111th, but what is the state of the organization? Is it a healthy organization, or is it an ailing organization, as a person who is 111 years probably would be ailing?
Yeah, this is just one part of what really we are expecting in terms of what Ramaphosa, the president, is going to say. There's also going to be the State of the Nation address in a couple of days, and there will also be the budget speech. So we seem to be having that jam-packed program, particularly during this first quarter of the year. If you are somebody who's expecting to hear from the president, and what would be your expectation, considering the fact that you will be having a whole lot of issues? You are just outlining them: poverty, energy crisis, and all that. What would be the issues you would want the president to attend to? Maybe one or two.
Well, today I think I would expect the president to focus more on the ANC itself and the tripartite alliance. In actual fact, I'm looking forward to see what kind of message of support the SACP and COSATU will give, because you would know COSATU at its own Congress took a decision not to support the ANC in the 2024 elections. The SACP is thinking of contesting the 2024 elections, which are now next year. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the tone around the tripartite alliance is going to be. But I think if you were to move to the state, I mean, you've got a cabinet lehutla that is going to be coming up, ANC lehutla, cabinet lehutla, State of the Nation address. The biggest thing that we are looking forward to in February is whether or not South Africa will be grey listed, because there is this big issue as to we have not put up necessary legislation to deal with money laundering, to deal with, financing for terrorism and all of these things. And now there's a race against time, and whether or not we'll meet the deadline of the review, or will be given a grace period of that review to be grey listed
and
as
simplify
a
it for
country.
us, Mnguni. What exactly are the implications if we are grey listed?
Well, it means that people don't have a confidence in terms of how you surveillance, money flows in your country. It means that, you are vulnerable to networks of terrorism globally. It means you are vulnerable to money laundering, and we already have a number of instances where we are actually quite skeptical about, the flow of money in the country. We've got a serious problem of corruption. We've got a serious problem of people dealing in cash. You would know, people will say, no, I've got 500,000 and it's in cash. These are not normal practices. And it then affects, of course, your banking system as to whether or not people have confidence. South Africa is lauded for having had a very mature, sophisticated banking system. But I do think that now we are in a situation where that is under threat, and we are going to have this review in February, and whether or not it will gain confidence in how we monitor our financial flows as a country or not is going to be something to be seen. But it's a very serious thing, because it's a peer review type of mechanism, which means other countries don't have confidence in you, and that might impact investment, that might impact financial inflows from your foreign direct investors and all of that. So it's something that is very big, and I think that it's going to be quite a defining moment for South Africa as well.
I want to pick your brain here, Mnguni. The Just Energy Transition Investment Plan. We are being promised by the West that we will receive about $8.5 billion to move away from coal, and 90% of our electricity is generated from coal, meaning we will have to rely on renewable energy, and you will have about 100,000 people from that sector losing their job. Of course, government is saying, look, we will try to train them so that they can also transition. At the same time, you have the very same countries from the West Germany buying coal from here to prop up their economy. You have the United Kingdom in December opening their own coal mine. A little bit of a contradiction, if you like, there. How feasible is this? That over the next 5 years, we know that Cabinet has endorsed that plan in October.
Yeah.
Just in simple terms, is this something that as a country we can afford, considering the fact that without energy, without reliable energy, surely we will not grow this economy?
In fact, we have increased our coal exports about 7 to 8-fold, right? So the demand globally for coal has been quite high. And of course, some people are saying it's temporal because of the Russia-Ukraine conflict and so on. But on the spot, I did interview former President Cyril Ramaphosa, and I spoke to him about this issue of the just energy transition. And he alluded to the fact that, it's a Western-sponsored concept, and we need to tread very carefully around it. I mean, that 8.5 billion US dollars you're talking about only compensates for about maybe 15% of the amount of money that we actually require for the entire just energy transition, as was the talking point in Egypt in the last COP, for example. So I personally think we should be gradual in how we go about this transition. We can't afford to, entirely leave coal, because there are communities, there are towns, there are economies that are built around coal, whether you'll be doing it for export or for your own internal, consumption. And of course, the big question still remains, what is the future of base load? So if you take away coal as your base load, what will you replace it with? Will it be with nuclear? Will it be with, because your renewables, because we're still dealing with questions around, technologies for battery storage, storage capacity and so on, is not at an advanced level. How do you then make sure that you've got, energy generation that is quite solid and with a secure base load? And I think that's what South Africa needs to solve for. We've got an energy generation problem, and that's why we've got load shedding. It's not, you're not going to use renewables to solve for load shedding. You've got to solve for your energy generation challenges.
All right, Ntempu, thank you so much for your time. So basically, he believes that we are being made guinea pigs. We are being made to experiment this program. But of course, the government, the president is saying, look, as much as Africa, we are not emitting that much, we also have a responsibility to ensure that we push back on the effects of climate change. And perhaps this is why he believes that we need to move with speed from fossil fuel towards green energy. We expect the program to start at least at about 11 o'clock here, and people continue to arrive from many parts of the country, various provinces coming to listen to their president as he will be outlining the January 8 statement of the National Executive Committee of the ANC. Myron?
Thank you so much, Moloko. Of course, very interesting there that Lukhona said about the renewal of the ANC, which is still very much a big topic when it comes to this 111th birthday celebration. He said it's very important for the ANC to look at who they allow into their ranks, which of course is big on building the party again and the renewal of the ANC. So that's one important point that he mentioned there, Lukhona. And he also said, the tripartite alliance is one of the issues that the president will have to address. He can't shy away from that. Of course, the relationship between the SACP and COSATU and the ANC, it has been something that has been a big topic. And of course, various socioeconomic problems. We know Eskom is a huge problem. He will have to address that. And apart from that, we also have this huge unemployment crisis in the country. And of course, our municipalities are struggling. And that's one of the things that the president will probably have to address as well. And one of those municipalities, of course, being Mangaung, where the party is having this huge celebration, will definitely be one of the focal points there. And another point that he also mentioned is it's going to be quite interesting to see how many of the Bloemfontein Mangaung residents will show up today, seeing that the ANC has lost some power there in that province, in Mangaung. So it will be quite interesting to see how many people will be arriving for those celebrations and for the president's speech.